More than anything in the world, I love my dad. He's a big man, weighing in at 300 pounds, and where he lacked hair on his head, he made up for it with his big bushy mustache. He was a picture of a polished dad, loud, proud, and very hardworking. My father worked his fingers to the bone in a mechanic shop for 20 years, and saved every penny until he could fulfill his dream. In 2008, my pa, Glenn Lewandowski, opened Amelia's Eats. Guess who's Amelia? It was a massive restaurant that was hard to fill up, and even harder to maintain, but always made enough to stay afloat and have just enough profit to keep the lights on. In 2016, my daddy left us. 56 years of hard work, no play and pushing himself too hard, took a toll. My dad left me Amelia's Eats, and I had the choice to sell or maintain it. It felt like he could still be with me if I could keep his dream alive. I told the lawyer who represented my father's estate that I would be keeping Amelia's open, and he said he would be in touch. The first few weeks were hard. The customers had all grown used to the jolly man with a thick accent and knack for cooking, lighting up the restaurant. Now, his 5'2" thick-haired, dull toad of a daughter was struggling to pick up frying pan and light up the world with it, just like him. Well, my dad taught me everything there is to know about Poland, cooking and Polish cooking. He didn't really leave instructions on how to be a figure. I didn't know how to inspire his staff to work hard, lift up his customers and keep his bill collectors at bay. 1 month in, a box came from my dad. Inside was his chef coat, a manila envelope and a binder full of financial records. After about an hour of crying into his coat and asking the universe why he had to go, I finally opened the binder. I found out that Amelia's was a bridal shop before it was a restaurant, and that's why it was so big. I also found a lot of old invoices and paperwork, detailing 8 years of expenses. I then opened the envelope to find a letter from my father. It read, "My darling Amelia. You're the apple of my eye, and the moon in my sky. Never has there been a man more proud of his daughter. When you receive this letter, I will be gone from this world. Amelia, through you, I will never truly be gone. I am always in your heart, guiding you towards what is right. I have left you with your namesake. I hope you love it, and it may become your dream like it was mine. Should you keep her, there is one thing you should know. Every night at midnight, the store must be done with dinner service completely and ready to be closed. The staff must be ready to leave at midnight, no matter what, no exceptions. Right before you leave, you must prepare a plate of your most popular Polish dish, and take it down to the basement. Leave the plate in the center of the basement, then turn around and leave. Leave all the lights on, and you must never look back. I hope you do what makes you happy, my darling Amelia. Love, Papa." I thought the letter was a little odd, but I chalked it up to my dad taking in a stray and keeping it in the basement of Amelia's. After an emotional night, I went to work the next day. My father had a right-hand man who helped him run his restaurant, an old buddy from the auto plant. His name was Sergio, another Polish immigrant. He was around my dad's age and really rocking the grumpy old man attitude. It didn't really matter though. Sergio came to work on time every day and worked hard. I never had to worry about the basement or the weird requests because every day, Sergio closed up the restaurant for me and took care of it all. When I brought up the letter, Sergio looked sad for a moment and said got it, and walked away. Months went by, and I made some changes to Amelia's. I cleaned it up a bit, spruced up the menu and the decor, really started to make it Amelia's for the first time. One day though, I woke up to a call from Sergio's wife. She told me Sergio had fallen ill and could no longer work. This was devastating, to hear my father's best friend in the world would soon be following him to whatever awaited us after our time on Earth. I got to work hiring someone to replace Sergio, but in the meantime, I had to close up every day. I've never been the type to back away from a challenge, but working open to close every day at Amelia's put a lot of strain on my body and mind. The first few nights were okay. I followed my father's instructions to a T. We had been flying through sauerkraut pierogies like crazy, so around 11:45 p.m. each night, I brought a paper plate of steaming hot pierogies to the basement and left them there. The basement was incredibly damp, the lights hung low and dim, and I could barely make anything out but the white tile floor. The thing that bothered me the most was the smell. The basement smelled like mold and rot, and overwhelmed me every time I went down there. The last night I ever stepped foot in Amelia's, I had made some latkes and pork chops for my father's stray. This mutt was really eaten good. I got to the bottom of the steps and tried to get a good look around. Nothing was discernible in the dim basement as usual. I looked at my watch. 11:49. I set the plate down but decided to look around, maybe try to find the mutt my father had left down here. He probably just made the midnight rule up so employees wouldn't waste time on the clock. At first, all I found were a bunch of scattered trash. Discarded fabric rolls, rusty shears, paper plates with animal waste, and many more mildly disturbing things. I looked at my clock. The minutes had ticked away into the effigy of normal basement, and slithered away. It was now 11:59. My father's warning reached out of my mind, and painted my face to a mask of panic. Something guttural shifted in me. Some deep human instinct that takes over when your car is hydroplaning, and you know it was because you were going too fast, and all you can think is I really messed up. 12 a.m., midnight. The air shifted in the basement, the mildewing stale air had a breeze. The coppery tone took the room hostage, and demanded you observe it. What was that? I thought to myself. I was standing just under a light, 15 feet away from this staircase. I froze in horror as I heard another noise. I wasn't feeling fear. I was deer. I was a rabbit in the trap of a wolf that was licking its lips and circling around. I was a fable, a cautionary story for little immigrant girls to listen to from their papas. I was going to die. No, that's silly. I told myself I was being irrational and needed to get it together before I got myself hurt. It was just a mutt, just a stupid mutt. How can a mutt make such an intimidating, metallic noise? It sounded like a rusty chain dragging on the concrete. My legs started to move and all of a sudden I was running toward the staircase. Whatever it was gaining on me, and fast. I leaped to the last step and heard a huge, and the sound of something hitting the ground. I dared to look and saw an emaciated figure on its hands and knees. That's right, hands. It looked like a woman in a wedding dress, with oily black hair, a cracked obsidian hole for a mouth oozing a sickly yellow pus, and 2 empty sockets for eyes. She looked like a person who had been wrung out and left to dry. She had a rusty chain around her neck, and bloody cuts around her neck from where she had tried to claw it off. Years later, I went to Sergio's wife's funeral. I encountered their son, Justin. Justin told me he worked with my dad and Sergio at Amelia's for a summer. One night, my dad's car had broken down. He waited for the restaurant to close, and Sergio gave him a ride home. On the ride, they got to talking. Justin said they were going on about how my dad got the restaurant for so cheap, because it used to be a bridal shop. He said that the owner had been kidnapping young brides and chaining them up in the basement, forcing his twisted fantasies on them every night. I don't know what that was in the basement, all I know is that I go my Amy now, and I'm doing my best to forget what I saw in the basement.